Hello there, welcome to the Think is Infinite podcast, Joe
and John.
And we are now back this week.
Yeah, that's our Sunday episode, and Joe will be probably uploading it hopefully tonight. If not, it'll be in the morning, right, Joe?
Yep.
Let's try to get it tonight.
Yeah, we're getting it tonight.
So, before we get started with our topics, Joe, from what I understand, you're going to be starting a new job soon.
Yeah.
And let's talk about it. What job?
A little bit. I'm going to be working at a Target pretty soon.
That's fantastic. Now, what are you going to be doing there?
I'm going to be doing the drive-up orders and pick-up orders and everything like that. It should be exciting.
Oh, they already told you exactly what you're going to be handling while you're doing it?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And when are you starting? What's the first day?
I think it's Tuesday.
Tuesday. Now, Joe, just so you know, Joe is, if for the people who may not have heard the podcast before, Joe's 17 years old, and he's on the spectrum, and we touch base on that topic every so often, but he's taking driver's ed right now, and you're finishing up driver's ed, right?
Yeah.
Feeling good? You feel like you can take this road test?
Yeah, I think I can.
Oh, well, I'm nervous. I'm nervous for you, but I'm from what you've been telling me, it sounds like you're doing well. I'm excited about your new job.
Yeah.
And once you give me your schedule, I'm going to go in and I'm going to sneak in and see how you're doing there.
Yeah.
Is that okay? I could visit you?
I guess, yeah, sure.
Well, Joe, I'm just excited about these new changes that you're having in your life. I'm excited about them, and I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of the fact that you've gotten to the point of learning to drive, and now you got your first job, and you're going to have your first set of responsibilities. It's just exciting. And Joe's going to be entering his senior year in high school in a few weeks, right?
Yeah, also, I think I'm going to be doing an internship. I'm going to be doing that this year with Senior Experience, this upcoming senior year.
Outstanding. So, Joe, what's on your mind, Joe? Because Joe's got an interesting mind, and hopefully you guys have all been listening to our Thinking is Infinite podcast shorts, or the tip shorts, as Joe calls them, right? Tips. All right, so Joe's been doing a lot of the tips, and I hope you've been enjoying the interesting things he reads and sees on the internet and in his travels. And what do you want to talk about today? He touched base on the topic to me, so I had a little preview of it, and it's kind of exciting, and I have some questions about it. But Joe, why don't you just lead us off?
So, first of all, this was a little bit of an interesting development. It was this science lab in San Francisco had actually developed nuclear fusion energy. So basically, nuclear fusion is the combination of two atoms. It's basically, instead of atoms breaking up, like atomic bombs and nuclear energy, it's basically two atoms coming together and fusing.
Okay.
And what this does is it creates a ton of energy, and it's way, way more than what can currently be done with nuclear power. And if this energy can be harnessed, it can actually power the entire world's energy needs. So this type of power is pretty important for things going forward, and there was a breakthrough very recently with nuclear power where they were able to actually create it for the first time with an energy surplus, because it takes a lot of energy to actually create that too. So they were able to actually create nuclear power with nuclear fusion power with more energy coming out than coming in. And now they've done that for the second time, and with an even greater success. And that's what I've just been kind of reading about.
That would be absolutely incredible. Obviously, the resources that we have on this planet. We worry about our resources. We use a lot of fossil fuels, and fossil fuels
definitely
burning too much into the sky is not good for the environment. But it's needed. We need to travel. We need to get one place to another. So I always thought that if we can find an alternate energy source that is clean, that is safe, that is that can actually power cars, homes, electrical grids, you name it.
Yeah.
That would be unbelievable. And I'm kind of excited over this.
Yeah.
Do you know how soon they may be able to get this up and running to become actually productive for the environment, for all of us?
Well, that actually is kind of that's more
Are we
unknown.
years away? Are we months away?
We might be years away because the thing is, the second they have actually produced it, but it's always been in like a lab setting, so it hasn't really been like kind of replicated on too large of a scale. Obviously, they're kind of working on getting that to like a larger scale, but they have really done some breakthroughs, and we are getting closer. Even though it may be years away, we are getting closer to that goal. It probably will be coming in.
And you know what? It could be just in time, because we could certainly use it at this point. Because you got to think of all the global energy. Think of how much when production goes down, the demand goes up, and then oil prices alone drives the economy. Now, if you could come up with an alternate source, I mean, that could be a humongous game changer in this whole world.
Definitely.
This is exciting stuff.
Yeah, I think it could also power kind of electric vehicles like into the market.
Did they say anything about the safety of it?
I don't really think so. They're trying to they're figuring out how to scale it up, but it is something that it like takes a lot of energy, and they are trying to figure out like ways to, of course, do it safely, but I think that's kind of what they're going to be like kind of experimenting with next, just how to like do it in a safe way, and also to do it on a larger scale.
Yeah, the one thing I worry, I think people my age, Joe, remember the 70s, where I was very young in the 70s, but I remember where nuclear energy got a bad reputation because of a couple meltdowns. And in the 80s, and about Chernobyl, you've learned about it. I think Joe even talked about it on one of the podcasts of Chernobyl's after effects. And I think it scared a lot of the planet to nuclear energy. So I think that it's going to take a little bit of convincing the public that this is a safe source of energy, but I'm excited about hearing something like this. I always get excited over this stuff.
Yeah, I think I also do think that they do need to obviously develop these kind of safety standards, because a lot of especially even with like nuclear power, nuclear waste is a big concern. They have to bury this nuclear waste in like actual like chambers. They have like whole chambers full of nuclear waste. So I don't like the real thing that I kind of know about it is like it combines two atoms together. I don't really know about like how nuclear waste would work in that, but it definitely is something that can very much help the world, and it's just something that I kind of read about and read a little bit about. You know
what I noticed, Joe? A lot of people are very short-sighted in their thought process when it comes to new energies and things like that, and I think it takes time. I think we also forget the unintended consequences. Let's just say the windmills. Windmills sounds like a good thing. You got wind, let's use it. Let's use it to power things. But windmills, sometimes kill a lot of birds. I also heard that there's some issues with windmills in the water where the building of these things are harming whales and the sea life. So although it could be a good source of energy, is it going to be safe for other things? And what are the unintended consequences? Like solar energy. Solar energy is good as long as the sun's beating on us, and that's a good source. But there's always an unintended consequence. So I'm curious to find out how we're able to manage this nuclear fusion with as little unintended consequences as possible.
That's true. I mean, actually, like, every source of energy right now has its limitations, has its, side effects.
Downside or whatever.
Downside. Even those that, like, are renewable have their downsides, have their negative implications, because it's not perfect. No energy source is really perfect. Even the ones that produce great amounts of power can be not as good. Like, for instance, solar, I think, produces wind power produces a lot more power than solar, and nuclear power produces probably even more. But those have their own negative implications. Solar energy has to be mined. They have to have, mining for
panels.
these metals.
Yeah, the panels, right?
Panels,
and which you're digging into the ground, and you're impacting and a lot of these electric cars, from what I understand, the technology or the battery source has to be dug up, and we're digging in areas. And is this infinite? Do we, not no pun intended to our podcast name, but is there an infinite source of these batteries to run these electrical cars? So it's very interesting, and I think, believe me, I'm all for better sources of energy.
Yeah,
I'm all for it.
Yeah, but
let's be mindful of the consequences. Don't be
Definitely.
so short-sighted and say electric cars. Let's everyone have an electric car. All right. Well, yes. If we have everyone that has an electric car, where are all these materials going to come from? Mm-hmm. And how much digging do you have to do in the ground to create all these materials that you're needed to run an electrical car? Listen, I'm all for it. If we can clean up the planet, I'm all for it. If we can stem the tide, listen, there's a lot of things that come into play when it comes to changing the climate. Some of it has nothing to do with humans. Some does. Yeah. The way we keep the planet clean, yes, of course it impacts. We impact the world. But other things that impact the world is just the sun, just the normal ebb and flow of climate throughout the years. Before there was running cars and this much oil being spewed into the Earth's atmosphere, we also had changing climates, right? Throughout, that's civilization.
That's definitely true.
Now we're definitely impacting it too. So I think it's a combination, and I think that's the best way.
That's true. Obviously, climate change has always occurred. It's thing about climate change is it's usually been slower, I guess, than it has been now, because it's just kind of accelerated too much, I guess.
Yeah,
that's kind of what people are kind of saying, that humans have really accelerated, because it was usually over 20,000 years or something. The climate would slowly go down 1 degree, 2 degrees Celsius. That would massively impact the world, by the way, but it was slower. Now it's getting faster, and things.
Yeah, believe me, I'm concerned too. I don't want us as human beings doing the damage to the earth.
But definitely, we have to balance that with the negatives,
and we have to use our technology.
Yeah,
right. So that's a great topic, Joe.
And now we're going to be talking about another little topic that we had, which is a very weird condition. I was actually informed about this from my driving class. Believe it or not, one of the students in my driving class was like, "Hey, did you hear about this guy who's created his own alcohol?" And I'm like, "What?" And so I searched it up.
So he makes his own beer?
In his body, yes.
What? In his body?
Well, yeah. You see, the thing is, in 2009, he got a surgery that he got a surgery on his thumb because he got into an accident involving his thumb, and they had him take antibiotics for to prevent infection. But the problem is these antibiotics actually negatively impacted the microbiome, basically the environment of bacteria in your gut, in his gut. So what ended up happening was brewer's yeast began to grow in his gut. So whenever he would eat carbs, he would oftentimes often eat carbs, and his blood alcohol content would go up. He would get feelings of drunkenness, but he wouldn't be drinking. He would just be eating any carbs.
So if he ate a piece of pizza and got pulled over by a cop, he would get a DWI.
He did. It was in 2012. No, it wasn't pizza, but he did get pulled over by a cop. In 2012, he got pulled over. He got charged with a DWI. He's like, "Yo, I just had a bagel." No, but no one believed him at first. But one of his family members looked up that someone had this condition. So then they alerted the doctors, and I think at this they went to this medical center and got him tested, and they found 2 types of bacteria in his like stool, and those 2 bacteria were basically brewer's yeast.
Oh my!
And they suspected that he had this rare condition, but they wanted to make sure, so they put him on a carb-heavy diet, and his blood alcohol content spiked to like 0.2.
Holy crap!
They put him on like he ate, like, a bunch of carbs. Yeah,
0.2 is, let's see, the legal limit is 0.08.
But one time he actually spiked to 0.3.
That's almost in a coma.
Yeah, he actually one time spiked to like 0.3 because that was like one of his worst like episodes.
He must have ate a lot of pizza that day.
Yeah, because he got like he had to go on like a no carb diet, and he took antifungals, but those weren't really effective. So then he went to other doctors, and then was put on antibiotics that helped to clear those bacteria, and then he started to reverse the symptoms. Those bacteria were killed, and he was able to eat carbs over again.
So he could just sit there and have some carbohydrates and get drunk.
Pretty much.
That is unbelievable. Now listen. Now for people who don't quite understand, 0.08 is legal, right? You can't
legal
drive.
Limit,
Legal limit to drive is 0.08. So 0.08, 0.16 is double the legal limit, right? So you said he got up to 0.3. So that is more than 4 times the legal limit.
Yeah.
So he's probably, now listen, I work in insurance, and we investigate accidents. So I know the highest I've ever seen was around 0.34. So that was like 4 times, 5 times legal, 4 times legal limit, 4 times 8 times 4 is 32. Yeah, 4 times the legal limit. And the person was like staggering drunk. And that is just unbelievable. Joe, that's crazy.
Yeah. And like, because those bacteria, when they're in like your body, they will like take that food and they'll like ferment it. They'll start like a fermentation process, because that's what happens in actual breweries. It's just that those bacteria were now in his body.
That is crazy, Joe. That is unbelievable. And you learn that. And see, Joe learns the craziest stuff. I love it. And that's why I love him doing the shorts. So when he puts out the shorts, give him a listen. They're very quick. You could probably get it on the way to work, or the way, or just doing something quick around the house. Pop on his shorts, because these are the types of stories you get. I mean, Joe tells me the craziest stories on these things. Sometimes he'll send me links, and I'm like, what is this? And then I always go, Joe, do a podcast on it. So,
I mean, with one of the links I had said to him was about that identity theft case.
Yes.
That whole thing
that was on last week's long form podcast, right?
Yeah,
Joe?
that one where they had their identity stolen by this real estate developer, and then actually they had their land literally stolen.
Yeah, that was insane.
And then I remember hearing another story. This had to do with insurance, where this happened like a few months ago. There were like these 2 insurance scammers who would actually drive in their car with their kid in the back, and they would actually just smash into other cars. They did this over 20 times, and they had like 160 dash cam videos that they uploaded to their YouTube for some reason.
Oh, morons.
And they uploaded it all to their YouTube channel, because I guess they decided it was good content, and they obviously got arrested when they found out that they were just driving their cars into other vehicles. And the craziest part is, oftentimes they would get away with it. They actually they got away with it for a while, because when one of the guys got hit into, they were found to be at fault, because they actually manufacture the accidents where the insurance scammer isn't at fault, so they can collect the money from insurance and avoid paying damages. So they had this crash where he was,
sorry for the outside noise, everyone.
Where he was forced to go over the double yellow line, and the other guy, the insurance scammer forced the other guy to go over the double yellow line and hit him to go around him, and that basically made the other guy at fault. And then what ended up happening, though, was this began to bite him. All this greed began to bite him, though, when he crashed into a truck because he suddenly braked and then had the truck crash into him. But this time he was found at fault because he like tried to make the excuse like, oh, I was stopping for a utility vehicle, but the utility vehicle was all the way like over there. So like, you know, it was like way too far. So then the police found him at fault. They began investigating and found all of this content they posted to their YouTube channel. And believe it or not, it only got like 50 views at most.
Yeah, so they were trying to put content out there, and it was moronically thinking they were going to actually get viewers. Now, Joe, now I've been working in the insurance field. I'm not going to get into the details of what we do, but a good investigator that was someone on my team would have caught him after maybe the second or third time. We have so many things that I won't even get into in place that we can catch these type of people once we see patterns. Like Joe knows patterns really very well, and especially kids on the spectrum are amazing with patterns and learning patterns and of behavior. But one thing I do I do investigations for an insurance company, and one of the things we do is we look for patterns, and we look at their previous claims, and if they have claims with a similar pattern, we start to investigate. So my team would have busted this guy after 2 or 3, but I can't believe he got away with like 20. I'm wondering what insurance company he got away with there. I'm glad it's not mine, because I don't think he works for my company. We would have busted him.
Yeah, he literally got away with it like 20 times, and those were just the collisions though. Those were just the collisions though. There were like 160 other dash cam videos. There were I think like 22 collisions or something. So that was like 10% of his were collisions. All the other videos were him trying to cause collisions, and then he would cause road rage incidents. So if a collision didn't work, he would try to cause a road rage incident.
I think the disgusting thing is this. I've seen things like this happen before. I think the most disgusting is when they put their kids in the car and do this, because it can be extraordinarily dangerous. These type of caused accidents. They call them caused accidents.
Yeah.
And one of the things that always makes me sick is that, and it's funny because it happens a lot, and you know, when they have kids in the car, typically insurance companies back off. They go, oh, no one could be that horrible. But it's true that I've seen it happen where they'll put kids in the car and they'll put them in dangerous situations because they know the insurance company will think, oh, no, they're not doing anything fraudulent. They would never put a kid in that situation. But some people are crazy enough to do that.
Yeah, they are. This guy literally, the guy got 3 years in prison because he got a bunch of child endangerment charges as well as assault with a deadly weapon because he was using his car as a weapon. Of course. So he got I think he got 3 years in prison, while the girl got she got like a few days in prison, a probation, and like 5 years probation, and like a child abuse prevention course, which probably did nothing. But the biggest punishment they got by far was the fines, because they had to pay off all of the people that they hit. So they had to pay a lot of money out.
Well, with 50 viewers on their YouTube channel, they weren't getting YouTube money to pay for it, right, Joe?
Nope, not really.
So listen, we're about to wrap up our podcast, but we're not going to get into details, but I will encourage you all to keep in mind for our next week's or coming week's podcast, because we are working on something very, very special. And
we're working on something big.
Yeah, we heard something. We got some information last week. And you know what's funny? I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I hate when podcasters do this, but I'm going to do it to everyone in the audience. We're working on something, and we're hoping to have something very exciting in the future episodes, the long-form episode. But in the meantime, before our next long-term episode,
make sure to watch those podcast shorts.
Yes, Joe. Yes, and listen to Joe's interesting stuff, because you know what? He was very interesting today on your stories. I love them, and I hope you guys are enjoying them too. And remember, Joe, right, about following, and
make sure to, obviously you want to, if you like the podcast, leave a like. If you really like the podcast, leave a follow. And if you really, really like the podcast, put a comment and a review.
Yes.
You can always review on Apple, at least on Apple Podcasts. You can write reviews for podcasts. So if you really, really love the podcast, make sure to write reviews. Even if you have some criticisms, you put it there. You know, we'll hear it, and then we can adjust to be better. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you for enjoying the
Hope you
podcast
enjoyed
today.
the podcast today. And that's it. Bye.
Bye. See you next week.
See you next week.